Now we're next going to look at multiplication of radical expressions. And before we do that, let's be reminded of the product property for radicals, which is stated in the top here in blue. And that says that we have the nth root of a times the nth root of b is equal to the nth root of a times b. And remember that the index on each radical must be the same before they can be combined into a single radical. So for our first example, we have then 4 times the square root of x times 6 times the square root of y. Now you won't need to do this, I think, in the future, but for this example I'm going to rewrite it so that we have 4 times 6 then times the square root of x times the square root of y. So then the 4 times 6 will produce 24. And then using the product property we have then the square root of xy. So the final answer, 24 times the square root of xy. Now for part B, we have 4 times the square root of x plus, or times, excuse me, the quantity, 6 times the square root of x minus the square root of y. And what we'll want to do in this case is to use the distributive property. So we're going to take first the term on the outside and multiply it by the first term on the inside. So that will produce then, I think you'll agree, 24 times the square root of x squared. Then we're going to take and multiply that term on the outside by the second term inside. And that will produce then minus 4 times the square root of xy. And going back to the first term now, the square root of x squared is x, so we'll have then 24 x minus 4 times the square root of xy. And since those are not like radical terms, that's as far as we can go in terms of simplifying. And for our last example, we have 2 binomials multiplied together, 4 times the square root of x plus 3 times the square root of y, that quantity, multiplied by 6 times the square root of x minus the square root of y. Now you'll remember that there's a method called the FOIL method for multiplying 2 binomials together. So we're going to start off by multiplying the first terms of each binomial. So we then have 4 times the square root of x multiplied by 6 times the square root of x, and that will then give us 24 times the square root of x squared. And next we'll multiply the outer terms together, which will be these terms right here. So that will give us minus 4 times the square root of xy. And we next consider the inner product, which would be multiplying these 2 terms together right here. So 3 times the square root of y multiplied by 6 times the square root of x will give us then 18 times the square root of xy. And then to finish up, we multiply the last terms in each binomial together. And that will give us minus 3 times the square root of y squared. So going back to the first term now, the square root of x squared is x, so that will simplify to 24x. And the middle 2 terms you can see are like radical terms, so they will combine into 14 times the square root of xy, adding the coefficients together. And then for the last term, the square root of y squared is y, so that will then give us minus 3y. So our final answer, 24x plus 14 times the square root of xy minus 3y.